Hello and welcome to another of my behind the scenes videos. And in this video I'm going to look at how I travel and how I afford to travel as well. We all watch our favourite creators travelling around the world. We watch them stay in nice hotels, travel first class, often premium travel and using airport lounges. And they always seem to be travelling. But how? They say perhaps that they're full-time YouTubers, but are they really? Well, they probably travel for work or have a job which allows them to travel. Perhaps they're self-employed or have a job which allows for remote working. Perhaps they're freelance as a graphic designer, computer programmer, or something else. And they make videos from locations around the world, and they seem to have a good time doing that. But they obviously have another job which pays for their travel, or pays for most of their travel. So they're not necessarily full-time on YouTube. Some reveal what they do and others don't. And in this video I'm going to reveal what I do and how I do it and how I afford to do it. A friend of mine said to me the other day, Alice, you're so lucky to be able to afford to travel. And I thought, well, it's not really luck, it's planning. But there again, perhaps she was thinking about all the holidays that I was taking and referring to them as holidays rather than as travel. So what is the difference between travel and holiday? Now with holiday, you travel to a location that you want to visit. You fly with a major airline or tour company and often pay a premium price to do that. You stay in the hotel or resort of your choice, and again, you often pay a premium price for that. Some people book all-inclusive package holidays and they pay inflated prices for organised tours and excursions. They pay a premium price to travel at popular times, like school holidays or during the month of August. Purchase souvenirs from overpriced shops and eat in popular restaurants, often in tourist hotspots, and purchase overpriced beers, drinks, desserts and other things. But travelling is quite different, because I travel on a budget, and most people who travel, and travel frequently, do travel on a budget. So they go to any destination at the cheapest price, fly with a budget airline, often very early in the morning or late at night, because these times offer the best prices. Book accommodation in areas that aren't popular with tourists or near popular tourist attractions. Sightseeing on foot with a free map from a tourist information shop, and travel at less popular times, usually off-season or weekdays, and never travel during school holidays or in the month of August. Avoid the tourist traps and don't purchase souvenirs. Eat at a restaurant that isn't used by tourists, or buy from a supermarket and cook in your own accommodation if that is possible. Some Airbnb accommodations have little kitchenettes, and going to a supermarket to purchase food and cooking at home or cooking in your Airbnb is a great way to reduce costs down compared to going to restaurants. And avoid pubs and buy water from supermarkets. So these are all things that you can do when travelling, but you wouldn't necessarily do if you were on a holiday. Use discount vouchers or money off coupons. Compare prices and shop around. Be flexible on when you travel and where you go and what attractions you visit. So when we travel, we like to do some of the tourist things as well, and visit castles and theme parks, but we budget for that. Book through the same website and collect points. That's always useful when travelling. Use loyalty schemes, collect air miles or genius levels on booking.com, and use free coupons and vouchers at popular coffee outlets if you're travelling within the UK. There's always a free coffee if you've got those vouchers saved up. And use credit cards that offer Avios points or air miles and build up your discounts there. And always travel light with hand luggage. People who go on a holiday check in baggage, and that adds to the cost of the ticket. But travelling can be as expensive as you want to make it, or as cheap as you can make it. And there's a huge difference between travelling somewhere off season on a budget airline as opposed to travelling on a major airline and going to the same destination at peak times. So how do I travel? Well, I travel light and on a strict budget. Now, travelling light means using a backpack because that's the easiest way to travel around, and that means hand luggage only. I don't have to check anything in, I don't have to retrieve anything off the carousels at the other end, and there's no risk to my bag going missing, which is the last thing I want when I travel. I have two backpacks, one large one and one smaller one. The smaller one I use for a few days away, and the larger one, which has an extra 5-litre capacity, for travelling a week or more away. And it's surprising how much you can get into a backpack if you fold things the right way. I always travel on budget airlines. That's what I can afford. I travel at the earliest flight possible, often very early in the morning or late at night, because that gives me the best prices. And I always look for nearby airports as well. I'm very flexible on where I travel to, and sometimes it's cheaper to fly to a nearby airport and start a holiday from there. And accommodation, well, I always book the cheapest. All I require is a bed and an ensuite bathroom, and that's the minimum requirements that I look for. And if some of them have kitchen facilities, perhaps I'm booking through Airbnb, then that's a bonus if I've got a kitchen as well, especially on longer trips, because that's reduces the costs of eating out. As for the destinations I travel to, well, I look at offers from all travel companies to see what's on offer. I don't always opt for my first choice. Often the second, third, or even fourth choice destinations is where I end up going. All depends on price. I travel on public transport, on the underground, local buses, or I do a lot of walking. I buy day tickets and I book in advance sometimes because that gives me the best prices. And some places like Luxembourg, well, there's free public transport for all locals and all foreign nationals. So travelling around Luxembourg, for example, is very economical and very cheap if you're travelling on a budget. A lot of places do offer reduced public transport or free public transport, which is excellent. And I always travel out of season, avoiding school holiday times and peak seasons, and prices are so much more affordable. And if you compare the prices of travelling in August to a popular destination as opposed to travelling in March during school term time, the prices are absolutely reduced. Total difference in the price, which is great for you if you're travelling. Sightseeing, well, I do as many free attractions as possible. I use free maps from tourist offices and only visit paid attractions if they add value to what I'm doing or to the videos that I'm making, and the costs and the entrance fees into those paid attractions usually come from savings that I've made elsewhere. So what about finances and how I cope with foreign currencies and transactions abroad? With finances, it's always best to plan ahead. And I always travel with a selection of financial choices from cards and cash. Now, my card of choice is my Revolut card. Now, this is not an advert for Revolut. They haven't paid me in any shape or form to talk about the company and the card, but it is my card of choice. I keep a strict spreadsheet of all my expenses when I travel and when I'm at home as well. And to make one payment onto my Revolut card, which I then use for travelling and for coffees and pastries and snacks when I'm out in the UK and at work, it's a lot easier to keep tabs on my finances as opposed to recording all my transactions separately on a spreadsheet. And I do keep a spreadsheet at home for all my accounts, and that way I know how much I'm spending. So Revolut is a great way to travel. It's a card that you can use around the world, just like a debit card. You load money onto it, and if you suddenly find yourself transiting an airport that you hadn't planned to visit because your flight has been diverted, then you're always assured that no matter what currency they use at that destination, your Revolut card will help you get through. I also carry a multi-cash passport card as well. That's a MasterCard. Some places like Visa, which obviously is Revolut, and others prefer MasterCard, and it's good to have an alternative card just in case. My Revolut card has a limit on the ATMs, so I can only draw out, I think it's £200 or the equivalent per month. However, my multi-cash passport card allows me to withdraw more than that, up to the amount that I have stored on that card in that local currency. So that's always good for extra cash if I need it. And of course I've got a credit card as well. That's good for emergencies or for travel delays, or you never know when you might need it. It's also useful for hiring a car and for checking into a hotel. I checked into this one last night in Lisbon, and they asked for a credit card. So I had one, and if I hadn't, perhaps I may not have been able to check in, even though this accommodation was pre-booked. So it's always a good idea to have a credit card for emergencies. And I also carry cash as well. I carry a little sterling when I travel, and also foreign currency as well to the destination, the country that I'm going to. And I always make sure that I've got enough currency to last me, because some places when you go into a restaurant or a cafe, they don't take cards. This is the case in Germany. I've just come back from touring Bavaria, and quite a few places it's cash only. And there's nothing worse than relying on your cards to travel and suddenly find that you can't pay for something. So always travel with some cash as well, and have access to cash as well through a second card if need be. And I never spend more than I need to. I set a strict budget, and I stick to it. And I'll talk more about that as we go through this video. But now let's look at how I actually afford to travel. I'm going to hopefully answer some of your questions in this section of the video, but if you do have any questions, then of course just drop them in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to reply to you as well. I know a lot of people like to travel and to find out how somebody else does it, and pick up some tips and tricks, and some money saving ideas is always good. But what I'm going to say here may not apply to you for various reasons, or a lot of what I'm going to say may not apply to you. But look at your circumstances and see how you might be able to travel and do things, and set budgets working around your job, your commitments, and your home family life. So how do I afford to travel? Well, I'm only a coach driver and my income just isn't the best. Overtime, I do quite a bit of overtime, and that pays for my travel. It pays for my flights, it pays for my accommodation, food, drink and entertainment. And if I don't work any overtime, then I don't travel. It's as simple as that. My salary covers my household expenses, living expenses and utility bills. And with the cost of living going up, my budget is very much squeezed. So I have to do overtime in order to afford to travel. I also have a work pattern which allows for travel as well. I work on a rota. I work 4 days on and then 2 days off. And my set days for holidays are set by the company. So I have set weeks off throughout the year. So I have to make the most of those. Sometimes those are in the autumn and the winter. And maybe my summer holiday is at peak times, and maybe it isn't. Maybe it's in August. I have to make the best of the time off that I'm allocated. And with my rota, I also have extra days that I can take as well. So I can take 4 days off, combine that with my 2 days off on the rota, and that gives me 8 days to travel. And if I'm careful about what days I take off on what weeks, then that allows for cheap day travel if I fly out and return midweek. So that does help a lot. And again, I can take extra days either side of my fixed days off to create longer trips just by taking an extra couple of days off before my next allocated 2 days off on the rota. Seems quite complicated, but it's fairly straightforward. Just taking extra days off, which is a bonus. Now, work at the airport, and one of the benefits of working at an airport, I work at Stansted Airport, is free parking or concession parking. Now, if I had to pay for airport parking every time I travelled, then the cost would just mount up. And I've worked out that this year the cost of airport parking at Stansted would be actually greater than the total cost that I've actually spent on hotels and sightseeing. So it's a huge benefit to have free parking or concession parking. And if for any reason I can't park at the airport, then my company has a yard just a mile from the airport, and I'm also able to park there as well. And of course, being a coach driver, I get free coach travel around the country as well. So that does help if I visit UK destinations, free coach travel. Costs of the trains in England are getting very expensive, and it's almost at a point now where I can no longer afford to travel by train. So coach travel is affordable, not just for me, because I get free coach travel, but it's affordable to everybody in comparison to taking the train. Now, I said earlier in the video that I have a strict budget, and my budget for the day when I'm travelling is £75. Now, that sounds like a lot of money, but that also has to include my accommodation. So if you take that cost out of my daily budget, there's not a lot left for food, drink, entertainment, sightseeing and other expenses. So I do have to be very careful to keep to my budget, and I do, because as I say, the accommodation that I book is always the cheapest. Now, some of you would have seen my video from Hamburg earlier this year, and my accommodation along the Reeperbahn, which is Hamburg's red light district. My hotel there was for 1 night. At least I think it was a hotel. It could have been a brothel, but I didn't make any extra money that night, so I will believe that it was a hotel. but the accommodation, although it had an ensuite, was very basic and not in the best possible location. However, that wasn't the worst accommodation that I had this year in 2022. I stayed in a guest house in the Telford area, and the room was 23 square feet, and it was the bathroom was shared with 3 other rooms. And when you come out of your room to go to the bathroom and you find a semi-naked man coming out, yeah, that's not good. But I travel on a budget, so sometimes I have to take even basic accommodation if it's just for one night. So budgeting and planning are key to all my travels, and sometimes I just have to take what I can get and wherever I can get it, and in terms of accommodation, regardless of what type of accommodation it is. And so far I've been fairly lucky, especially with the Airbnb accommodation that I've stayed in, because that's obviously had a shared bathroom with the host, and there's ways around that, but sharing a hotel bathroom with other rooms is not good, especially if the accommodation is substandard, just like the bathroom. So I also use discount vouchers and all the offers I can whenever I travel. I book regularly through Airbnb, which is excellent, and also through booking.com. And I'm building up my offers and discount levels with booking.com. And this accommodation I'm in right now here in Lisbon was booked through booking.com, and because I'm out of season, I got a very good discount as well. And this room ticks all the boxes for me. It's in a nice area. I've got a nice view of the castle from the balcony, and I've got an ensuite just behind me, so it ticks all the boxes. And it was affordable, very affordable, because I'm out of season here. And those videos will come shortly to my channel. But if you're watching this video in a year's time, well, they're already on my channel for you to enjoy. So yeah, booking ahead and using discounts and using regular sites is a good way to travel. It's what I use. I rarely use cafes and restaurants, so I only stop off in restaurants if they add value to my videos or they've been sponsored. And I'm so grateful to everybody who has purchased a coffee for me, because it really is lovely to travel with the support of others. Now, my recent trip to Bologna this year, I had quite a few meals out in Italian restaurants. Well, I should say that all restaurants in Italy are Italian restaurants. Let's clear that one up. But yes, I did have quite a few meals out. It's something that I wanted to do, and I budgeted for that by working overtime. And as I said earlier, if I don't work overtime, then I can't afford to travel. It's the only way I can afford to travel is by working overtime. So basically everything I do to travel light and save money. I also plan every detail of all my trips and cost everything before I travel. This way I know what my total spend is going to be and if it's within my limits. And actually I do stick to that. I don't go over, and everything I've done so far this year has been well within that £75 a day limit, because sometimes, yes, I do have to have cheap accommodation, and sometimes I show my accommodation in my videos, especially the nice accommodation I stay in. But if I don't show my accommodation, then you know, it's a bit it's a bit grotty, let's put it that way, or it's an Airbnb accommodation and I don't show other people's accommodation in my video, especially if I'm staying with the host and she's, well, the hosts are there as well. But if it's a hotel accommodation, I usually feature the hotel in my videos and let you know where I stay, and usually recommend that hotel as well because I had a nice stay there. So wherever I travel, there is always the unexpected. There's the flight delays, traffic, bus replacement services for trains, and I always leave plenty of time between leaving my accommodation and going to the airport, especially if I'm taking a local bus from the town centre or city centre to the airport. And I know this is the case in London. People travelling out from central London towards Stansted Airport on the coach, there's always traffic and delays, and so I always plan ahead and leave plenty of time for any delays and any eventuality. And sometimes when I travel, I take a local bus. I always make sure a day or so before that I go to the bus stop and I make sure that I know where that bus stop is and how I'm going to get there, because the chances are that the bus I'm going to catch or the intercity coach travel is a regular service, a scheduled service that departs that location at the same time every day. So I always make sure I know exactly where my onward travel is going to be, so there's no surprises on the last day, and there's no danger of me missing my my bus. Nothing worse than missing a connection if you're travelling. And travelling around by coach or by bus throughout Europe is so easy. There are so many options for travelling on local buses or well-known coach companies. And of course, train travel in Europe is very inexpensive as well, especially if you're comparing train prices to train prices in England. Travelling around Germany recently by train was actually very affordable, until I decided to take an ICE train, the intercity trains, and that was noticeably more expensive than any other train that I had taken. But the journey was well worth it, and I'd never been on an ICE train before, and I had budgeted for travel on trains, and my total spend for all my train journeys around Bavaria for that trip was well under budget, so I could afford to travel on an ICE train. So basically I set my rules and I adhere to them. Everything I do is planned, everything I do is costed, and as I say, I travel out of season on budget airlines, travelling light, and to whichever destination is the cheapest. So sometimes it's not possible to go to my first choice, but it might be at another time. So I hope in watching this video you've gained a little insight into how I travel and how I afford to travel. And as I say, if you have any questions and need some advice, then just drop a comment in the comment section below and I'll be happy to get back to you. So whatever you do and wherever you go, enjoy your travels and enjoy looking around other places, looking at the sites, the tourist locations, and immersing yourself in the local culture, because there's so much to see and do when travelling without going to the major tourist attractions. But it is nice to do them occasionally, and today I went to the Castle St George here in Lisbon, which was just really enjoyable, and I paid a €10 entrance fee, and you'll see that in the video when it comes to my channel. So thank you so much for watching this video, and we'll see you soon on my travels. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button because there is plenty more to come. Thanks for watching.